All right, we got DeQuell. We're bringing him in.
DeQuell, can we hear you this time?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. DeQuell, before we get into
right.
the questions, we do have to address some serious allegations against you, my friend.
Yeah, listen. I heard him already. I heard Tyvis bumping his gums yesterday on the show.
Well, we have the soundbite, DeQuell. For anyone who missed it on yesterday's show, Steve, let's play the soundbite and let everyone know what DeQuell's been accused of.
If you spend any time at all in the 4th Street area, you have seen Tito coming to a game, going to a game, or coming back from a game on his scooter. That's his mode of transportation. It's hilarious when you see Tito on this thing, buzzing through the streets.
Rolling up.
He is rolling in style. Someone had the gall to steal the thing.
Yeah, well, we all know it was DeQuell. He's the only person that needed it. DeQuell is suffering from Achilles injury, and he needed to get around.
So DeQuell took the scooter.
DeQuell was rolling that thing. He probably put some rims on it and everything.
Damn, DQ.
Pimp my ride. Pimp my scooter.
DQ, they said you DQ, they said you DMV'd it.
Hey, listen. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a thief. But you know what?
You did the Baltimore thing.
Listen, I owe Tyvis, man, because he was on the show yesterday just bumping his gums, not really making a lot of sense, trying to defend his boy Eli Apple to the grave. I'm like, come on, Tyvis. I had to tell him, like, come on, Tyvis. Like, look, a real friend will be honest with your friend. All right, he was wrong.
Hey, DQ,
he made a mistake.
DQ,
he apologized. Let's move on. You know
DQ,
what I mean?
I'm a OSU dude, and I was like, Eli,
right.
Eli, relax.
Right.
We got some film from New York. We have film from New York.
DeQuell is not even any good. Eli Apple's not even any good.
I know. Jason, listen, he defended him to the. I'm surprised you guys had the patience to deal with it. But I ended up turning it off. I'm like, I can't hear it anymore. I can't hear it.
He was questioning his own credibility.
Yeah, man. I was like, the more he kept speaking, the more credibility just kept leaving out the door.
That was his roommate.
He had a little fun with it. I tell you what, having this Achilles. I tell you what, having this Achilles, a scooter made all the difference in the world. But I got one honest question for you guys. I don't know who Tito is. Who is Tito?
Oh,
Terry Francona,
Terry
the Guardians manager.
Oh,
okay.
Tito.
The nickname is Tito.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I saw Tito last
listen,
night.
man, I like the setup right now. I know Jason and Brad, you guys are, helping the rookie over there. McNuggets. But McNuggets, I gotta say, you're doing a beautiful job, my friend. That's not easy to sit in that chair and host a show.
I appreciate people. People forget that I did do this as an actual living for a few. Like, I know I look 6, but from ages 1 to 5, I did do TV stuff. So people are always shocked. I'm like, you're not the worst I've ever seen at it. I'm like, hey, thanks, guys.
DQ, you know what? When I rolled in today, you know what it's like? I got the word that Jordan and Pippen was sitting out today. So guess what?
Ooh, oh yeah, you gotta suit up.
Oh, it's me today. I'm the one.
He's going for 82.
Bring me the ball today. It's mine today.
He's going through Brad today.
Hey, DQ, we're talking about free agency needs here. And I know you tuned in and listened earlier. So if you were in Andrew Berry's seat, is defensive tackle, is linebacker, wide receiver, what's the one position you think the Browns need to address first in free agency this year?
I know everybody's talking about the interior D-line, and that's obvious. Anyone that has 2 eyes understand that. But I would start looking at someone else to help Deshaun Watson, from a receiver standpoint. I think that's something that, listen, I think Amari Cooper played well. We're going to have a running game, but if you can somehow get another 1A type of receiver, I think that would bode well for Deshaun Watson in this offense. So when you get behind in games, for whatever reason, you have the skill set on the outside to be able to push the ball down the field, and you can rely on guys to get open. And I think about a guy. I'm not sure what his contract situation is. I know he was suspended last year, but Calvin Ridley. I think the Atlanta Falcons extended his player option, but he was suspended. But I know he probably won't be a free agent until next year.
Jacksonville traded for him this year, DQ.
What's that?
Jacksonville traded for him this year.
Oh, that's right. They did. So scratch that idea. But,
it's a great idea because another team did it. So
what y'all got hanging over there, the Washington Commanders? Y'all got a bunch of receivers over there.
Yeah. Listen, we have one. they have one, and they're not letting him go. He's Ohio State guy.
Yeah, Terry
McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
You set me up for the hoop.
There you go.
I forgot I'm feeding you today. I'm feeding you today.
So,
Hey, listen, you would have to give up the farm to get him because
Yes, you
he's been
would.
their offense the last 3 years, and he's explosive. And he's not the biggest guy in the world, but man, he just somehow seems to get open when they don't have a lot offensively. But it's going to be if I'm Andrew Berry in that front office, time is of the essence. You don't have time to build and think you can't go out and make a splash now. You've already done that bringing Deshaun Watson in, so there's a level of expectation that's going to come with this Browns team the minute the next season starts. So you got to look at interior D-line. Definitely, you have to be able to find someone that can at least demand some sort of double team or just be consistent, an available guy that's consistent, a veteran guy, and then you start to move down the line with linebackers. I don't trust any of these linebackers we have on. Listen, there's some young guys that can help you. That'll be a stalwart on special team and be a decent backup. But you got to go out. I know you guys talked about Levante David as being a guy. I'll go as far as saying there's a guy that's probably a little bit more inexpensive. He was over with the Colts, Bobby Okereke. I think I'm saying his name right.
He's good.
Yeah, he's a guy. He was steady for them. Colts had some issues at the linebacker position. He stepped in, played well, was productive, and he's inexpensive. So I think you got to start chipping away at some of these big holes because, quite frankly, to leave yourself some room. So if a big name guy comes and play, you got to be able to make that splash because, quite frankly, they don't have the time to wait. If they don't get it done this year, it's fair to say everyone's going to question everyone in that front office because you've underachieved with the talent this team has.
DeQuell, when you look at all the positions of need, defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, receiver, which is the one that they can fill immediately with the second-round pick in an ideal world? Yeah,
I you know what? As much as I want to say defense, you gotta help Deshaun Watson. You paid him a ton of money. He has to, at the very least, you have to be able to move the ball down the field and push the ball down the field. So I think I'm agree with you, Jason. I think I heard you said earlier, it's receiver. I think you need a guy that can come in right now and be a difference maker. You missed out on the third round draft pick. He hadn't showed up all year.
Right. And
I just don't think he was a good fit for him. I don't know what the case may be, but you got to go out and get a playmaker, a dynamic playmaker where on the offensive side of the ball, and particularly at the receiver position.
Tackles and ends seem to go so much in the first round. By the time you get to the second round, I don't know that you have an immediate day one starter, but I think you can find an immediate day one starter in the second round at receiver.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. When you get drafted, my expectation is obviously first, second, and third for me. Those are impact guys. When they step in that building, you're expecting them to contribute in some fashion or what have you. The middle rounds, that's when you find a diamond in the rough, and that's when your team, your scouting department really has done their due diligence and homework to find those key positions. And quite frankly, those are your backup guys that can are developmental that can develop into a starter. So I think right now is a critical year. They have to get it right. I know there's some all-star games coming up. There should be the entire front office of the Browns need to be all over every all-star game that's going on right now to pinpoint who can help them right now.
Yeah. DQ, in your own backyard at Maryland, what's the receiver that was at Maryland that got hurt that was taking the top off last year?
Raheem Jarrett? Is you talking about Jarrett?
Yeah. And what's his status?
So that's a good question. I was actually with Loxley a few weeks ago at the fight, and I brought some things up, but it's in limbo with this NIL play. There's a lot that goes on there.
Yeah.
I didn't know about in terms of how these guys kind of leverage their position in terms of, hey, I don't know they play this transfer portal card just to generate more NIL dollars from, wherever region you're playing. And I get it. But right now, I'm unsure of his status, but he's definitely a guy I'm sure Loxley would love to have back. But he is a difference maker. A lot of people don't, I know you got your guy, Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State, who I think is he can come out now and be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's unreal.
And then there's a huge drop-off.
Right.
But I do think Raheem Jarrett is one of those guys, like Stephon Diggs when he was in Maryland. He was very overlooked, but he was very productive in the league and one of the best top receivers in the league right now. But I do think Raheem Jarrett has the capability of being that guy that goes under the radar that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Let's turn back the clocks real quick. If you were in college right now and could sign an NIL deal with any company, what would have been your perfect NIL deal?
Right now, I gotta go back to when I was like 18 years old or something. Like, you know what? Man, you know what? I probably would have took an NIL deal for some pizza back then. That's how. As long as I could get a meal, because college. I'm thinking about those college days, man. It was hard just to get a meal. You know, my family wasn't down the street. My family was in Florida, and I was in Maryland, and it was hard just to get a meal sometimes, man. I lived rough, but all my close teammates, if they had a couple dollars and had some food, they would share with me. But man, I would go for some Papa John's pizza. It's that simple for me.
And DQ, you mentioned receivers being able to kind of come in and make an immediate impact more than defensive players. Why is it that offensive players tend to be able to make that transition from college to the NFL more seamlessly and impact the game quicker than guys on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes in. You know, just thinking about my own experience of the jump from just a defensive mentality, right? Like in college, there was, I call it high school cover 3, high school cover 2, high school cover 1. There was no zone to matching, and there was no once you call the defensive call based on if a guy motioned or not in college, the defense didn't change all that great. I think when you get to the NFL, now you have more time. There's a lot of moving parts because every year offenses change. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to prepare for an Andy Reid type of offense where a lot of misdirection, and you have a guy that makes throws off, you know, makes a lot of his plays on off scripted plays. So I think for defense, especially terminology, understanding, you know, coverages and understanding, you have to understand what everyone is doing in order to do your job as opposed to offense. And I'm not saying offense is any easier, but I do think from a receiver standpoint, I think they build this base a lot earlier in terms of receivers reading coverages, you know, because safety's always disguising. So you've already kind of equipped yourself into, you know, in that mindset of, yeah, when I get to the NFL, obviously no one's going to line up and say, hey, this is what coverage we're in. There's always some sort of disguise. So they've already been indoctrinated to that. And I think it's, you know, again, it's a difficult position to play. I would have hated to play offense because you just have to, there's no reacting. You know, defense, on the defense side of the ball, I love to react to things that don't necessarily go your way. And you have to be a great problem solver in the heat of the moment. And that's one of the beauties, one of the things I loved about playing the game.
I don't get to talk to you as often as these guys because we're never on the same day. So you may have
answered
answered
this.
It's
good to talk to you, Jason.
Yeah,
man.
You may have answered this already, and I'm sorry if you did, but you seem to not be high on the Browns' current linebacker crop. What do you think of JOK? What do you do with him? And what did you think of Taki when he moved to the middle? I thought he was better in the middle than he was on the outside. Is there something there, or do you have to move on from him too?
No, I think Taki definitely you can win with him. He was decent in coverage. He was average in terms of, you know, getting off blocks, reading what he saw in front of him. You know, he didn't miss many pulling guards. You can build with him. He's a guy that was a big contributor on the special teams, and he contributed far beyond what anyone probably would have expected given the circumstance of him playing, you know, a lot of defensive snaps. Now with JOK to me was probably one of the biggest disappointments of this season defensively. Because you look at his skill set, you look at the things he did in college, and you say, man, if he ties it together, this guy could be a household name. Mm-hmm. And as I watched him throughout the season from the first week to the last week, and I know he dealt with some injuries, and that obviously has a huge effect on anyone's game. And also you got to think about, and I didn't think about this the last time I was talking about it, but I believe he lost his he lost his brother in the offseason. So he dealt with a lot of things that a lot of, you know, people don't have to deal with at a very young age. So hopefully he got the proper support in that area. But in terms of his play on the field, I didn't see any progression. I didn't see anything. I mean, I have a notebook around here of how many times he missed a pulling guard in front of him.
Wow.
Probably every time.
Wow.
It just was day one things that you coach in college that he's not doing at the pro level. And I don't care how strong, how fast, and how you present on paper. If you're not doing the small things obviously lead to big things, big plays. big opportunities, and he's not there yet. And so for me, I didn't see enough of the progression, whether it was coaching, whether it was himself putting in the work. And I have to go back to what I said last week. I move on from it. I move on from it. Because at best right now, if he has any trade value, let's hope and pray he does. But right now, he hasn't shown me enough on the field to say, you know what, he's a guy that we can build a championship and a Super Bowl around. He's a guy that's too inconsistent that because of the front office situation, because this sense of urgency this year, you got to win. And you got to make tough decisions. You can't afford to have this guy linger around and put him in the lineup, take him out of the lineup. But I would invest more in Taki right now than JOK. And I know that's hard for some people to hear, but I just don't see the progression. I don't see it.
Let me ask you this, DQ. So, you know the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you be moving off of on this roster? Who's not coming back here next year? And that's across the board. Offensive side, defensive side. Kareem Hunt. You got Clowney.
Clowney, we can all agree he's not coming back. He pretty much talked himself out of here. And he tried to double back and apologize and not offend people. It's like, you realize your market isn't what you thought it was.
Right.
Kareem Hunt, I think at this point, I don't know what his contract status is, but I don't think he comes back. I think they have some guys behind him. Yeah, he's a free agent. I think you have some guys behind him that are deserving of more playing time.
Schwartz.
You look at Schwartz. Yep, you read my mind. Schwartz. Nah. You've had an ample amount of time to show, what you can do and what you can be consistent at. I think you move on.
JOK?
JOK, I think you move on. It'll be a tough call to make, but I think you have to move on.
What about the defensive backfield?
Oh, man.
Is John Johnson back? That's the real question.
So, I don't know. I'm 50-50 with him.
He's
but
got
I can
big
tell you
cap
one
number.
guy.
Big cap.
He's got a big. What's his cap number, Jason?
13-ish, I think. 12, 13.
Oh no. Oh yeah. You gotta either try to restructure, give him a chance to restructure, or you move on.
Frankly, I don't know if he wants to be here. Like he's been here 2 years. You know what I mean? And better than anybody, you get poisoned a little bit by some of the nonsense that goes on in that building when you've seen it done other ways. I don't know this. I'm just saying. I wonder if he even wants to come back.
Yeah, and when you have a big, when you generate that type of a salary, a cap number each year, you're looking. They look for you to do more than what you did this past year. Mm-hmm. But there's a guy, Grant Delpit. Mm-hmm. I know he's a young guy. I love his freaking when he's in the box. This man is not afraid to throw his body around. Yeah. I love his intensity week in and week out. And he had the same intensity week 1 as he did week 17.
DeQuell, he made so many boneheaded plays, though, of like,
I know.
It's the mental side with me that I've said it before. I hate saying it about a guy, but I don't know how high his football IQ is because it's like, what are you thinking? Why would you do that?
Right. Well, then you have to go. So you can build around that. If you're tuned into your team, if you can find a guy that can come in. I remember there was a guy named Mike Adams. Mm-hmm. Played with him long time in Cleveland, played with him in Indianapolis. And I remember when I was in Indianapolis, Ryan Grigson, we had a conversation because they were thinking about bringing him in. He was like, what do you think about Mike? I'm like, he will be the quarterback of that secondary. He's not going to go out and make these wild plays, but he's going to be consistent. He's going to be available. He's going to galvanize the guys. He's going to hold everyone accountable. If you can bring in a guy with that type of credibility, he'll teach Grant Delpit the nuances of the game. And I think a lot of times it gets overlooked. You just plug in, what does he run? How tall is he? Has he made big time plays? But you can actually, that's part of the development of bringing another guy in to see how he responds. And if he doesn't respond properly when you bring in a guy that you think that he can learn from, then you start to revisit, do we need to move on from this guy?
And I don't think JJ3 is that guy you just described. I don't think that's
he doesn't have he doesn't.
He's
not
teaching mentor. You know what I mean? Like that's not. Yeah. He doesn't strike me as that.
DQ, producer Earl's got a question for you real quick.
First of all, we never talked before, man. So what's going on? Lifelong Clevelander, lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. There's a lot of talk on Twitter right now about Browns fans cheering for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, you've played here for a long time. What you feel about that? What you think about that?
I mean, we've come a long way. Let's say that. We've come a long way if Cleveland Browns fans are rooting for anyone other than the Browns. And so that's what I can say to that. But I don't see any reason for any Cleveland Browns fans to be rooting for another Ohio team, especially right in our backyard. But, I mean, it's hard not to, listen, when you start to break down the individual play and players, it's hard not to like a Joe Burrow. I mean, for what, Cincinnati was Cincinnati until he showed up. They were an afterthought. And now here they are in a position to go play for another Super Bowl in what, 2 years? They've done a remarkable job, and it puts pressure on everyone else in this conference. If you can, and right now, the beauty of the Bengals, they still have their top two best players are still on their rookie contracts. So you better go build around them because they're gonna hit the bank when it's time. Joe Burrow and receiver Jamar Chase. So they're in the luxury seat. This is what every 31 other teams envision building a team. When you find the guy behind the center and you find a guy that can just as a difference maker at the receiver position. So they got a good thing going. They're going to be good for a very long time. And that's why I feel like these Browns have to get it right and get it right in a hurry.
DQ, we talked after the show last week. You gave me a call and mentioned you had spoken to one of your friends who played for Jim Schwartz in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of that conversation with us about what Steve Tulloch told you?
Yeah, so Jim Schwartz, he's coached all types of guys. He's been, this is his 30th year in the coaching ranks, and he's coached small linebackers, he's coached big linebackers. Somehow he's been able to be pretty consistent from a defensive signal caller standpoint. And Stephen Tulloch, who's a good friend of mine, we left, we entered college together. We kept in touch when we played, and with shoes on, he's probably 5'10", short inside linebacker, stocky guy, but I reached out to him because he had played with him in Tennessee, and he said a number of great things about him. He even went as far as calling him a father figure, and he was like he was going to be intense. And let me pull up because it was a very long, very very long text message, and I couldn't believe it. Anytime guys reach out and respond in that manner about a coach, you have something good.
They mean it.
They mean it. A father figure. He mentioned when he left the Titans. When Schwartz was in Detroit, he brought him to Detroit and ultimately brought him to Philly. So that's a guy that Jim Schwartz relied on, and they have a really good bond. Mm-hmm. And those are the coaches that you want. Those are the coaches that remind me they relate to players, but players relate to them, and they know how to, at the very least, make you feel like the defense is part of yours. Right. And that's been my experience. Any coach I've ever played for that I've vouched for from a defensive coordinator standpoint, they've somehow figured out a way to make guys feel like we have ownership within the defense, what we want to run on first and second down, what type of pressures we want to run. So I feel like he's done a great job of utilizing what he wants to do, and with obviously getting feedback from his players.
How much say will he have in who comes and who? We were talking earlier about Deshaun. Deshaun's, I think, is going to have a good, loud voice and what receivers are here. So how much will Jim have the freedom when you have a new DC come in? How much do they get input on who they're coaching?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason he was brought in. Obviously, we could probably all agree Kevin Stefanski is an offensive guy. He wants nothing to do with the defense. So you have to bring in a CEO type to run the defense. And I think they brought him in because of some of the holes they have from the D-line standpoint, because Jim Schwartz has coached some top-end all-pro, perennial Pro Bowlers at that position. So he knows what it should look like. And I think it'll be, if they can communicate that and actually give him the keys to say, okay, what does a Browns D lineman look like in order for our defense to really reach its full potential? So I feel like if not, I feel like you're working backwards. You're working against yourself. Why not use 30 years of experience to your advantage and teach everybody, not just on the defensive side, but Kevin Stefanski, this is what good defenses look like. This is how you can, attack certain defenses. Just to have him in the building, in my opinion, will not only help the defense, but also help Kevin Stefanski game plan against some of these, tough defenses that he's going to face. Yeah. And I think it's just an asset. If you don't utilize him in every facet that you can, I think you're working backwards, and ultimately we'll be talking about what the Browns have a history of doing, unfortunately. Kicking everyone out and bringing a new regime in and giving them 2 or 3 years and then kicking them out. And it's just the same repeat, vicious cycle over and over again. But I do think they got it right with Jim Schwartz. You needed a CEO-type defensive coordinator to come push these guys to reach their full potential.
That is DeQuell Jackson, Browns Hall of Famer, Florida High School, I think Seminole High School. Is that right?
Yep,
Seminole High School. Look at that memory. Way to go, McNuggets.
You know what? Jay told me really quick. Jay told me he worked in the St. Pete area as a director of, I don't know, some publication down there. But
yeah,
I couldn't find him. So we got to fact check that. We got to fact check.
He's inflating that resume again.
I know he's sick and throwing up, so I hope he feels better. But I don't know. I got to check my facts.
They said Jay put a Santos on you.
Yeah, man. Santos Jay.
DQ, appreciate it as always, my friend. We will see you next week as we preview the Super Bowl.
Brother.
So,
all right, sir.
Have a good one, DQ.
See ya.
Yep, take care.